Alcohol. The alcohol is one of the oldest drugs of mankind. Which brewed beer? The first culture the Sumerians were, the Egyptians followed them. The Greek discovered the wine. The Arabs found out in the Middle Ages that one could concentrate alcohol by distillation. Wine and bread were basic foodstuffs at that time. The Christianity raised them to sacraments. 90% die the alcohol poisoned at a concentration of 5.8 alcohol levels in the blood. Alcohol primarily impairs the areas of the brain which control the emotions and the consciousness. Since alcoholics take a great interest of their food in the form of alcohol, vitamin deficiency occurs in the course of the time. Since alcohol is a vitamin rubber, after an excessive consumption it comes to a hangover, nervousness, easy sensitiveness, quick fatigue. The symptoms are sweating strongly and an illness feeling. Emotional consequences of drunkenness are lowered self-criticism, easy sensitiveness, disinhibition, faulty coordination of concentration and self-criticism, and tiredness. Uneasy suggestibility and emotional lability frequently occurs. The unconsciousness uses blood alcohol content increase strongly sometime. After that the respiratory center is cancelled in the brain. Heart and circulation are also cancelled at. The temperature regulation is faulty. By irritation of the stomach lining by the taking of alcohol. Drunk do not remark that they undercool. Has frozen to death already for this reason. Drunk alcohol causes the following illnesses: polyneuritis, pachymeningitis, fetal alcohol syndrome, gullet crayfish and stomach cancer. Emotional subsequent illnesses are the delirium of Bremen, persecution mania and hallucination, in the past fatally, today treatable, and disease Korsakow, confusion, disorientation, memory performance weakens strongly, often become persons affected by stress, frustration, mourning or a social environment, by a lot of alcohol being consumed to alcoholics. Since this addiction illness is stigmatized strongly, persons affected learn a long life of suffering out of social decline and shame and drink secretly. Alcohol is a pleasure and addictive drug. It leads to dial mechanism increase in euphoria. A strong alcohol consumption can, however, lead to attitude changes like aggressiveness, enjoyed in small sets. Usage generally describes the ethanol being part of the group of the alcohols. Alcohol which has gained and has an intoxicating effect by fermentation of sugar from different raw materials. Alcohol belongs to the addictive drugs whose acquisition, possession and trade are legal. A quick look in story and origin. The concept alcohol going back on the Arabian word al-waste was the finest, fine powder taken from the Spanish and originally used for the name of the fine, volatile constituents of the wine with the meaning, as food, pleasure and intoxicant. Alcoholic drinks have a tradition thousands of years old. You are already well known to Sumerians and Akkadians, and wages were indicated in bread and beer units in ancient Egyptian directories. Since alcohol, however, was not reliably available and durable, it did not come to a considerable development of dependences despite its far distribution in the ancient times. The raw materials necessary for the alcohol extraction primarily served directly the diet and were presumably in prosperous regions and only two particular times only in such sets at the disposal, that you could produce out of the also alcohol. A distinctive alcohol consumption is only for the Middle Ages and covers the beginning modern times when the payment of in bondage and day workers was partly carried out in the form of alcoholic drinks or by granting of the privilege of alcohol production of one's own. This manner of the payment was still a common practice even in the beginning industrial age. This had the consequence that a misery alcoholism arose in some places in particularly glaring form. The increasing distribution of the distillation of alcoholic drinks was the reason that the consequences of alcohol consumption also increased and emerged always more clearly. For the checking of alcohol consumption and the dependence-heavy measures of which the prohibition is the probably most meaningful and best-known example in the USA were taken up in the countries concerned repeated on a governmental level. Alcoholic drinks are unlimitedly available in Germany and in other non-Islamic countries practically today. Drinking alcohol has largely social recognition. Merely the Protection of Minors Act offers legal restrictions of alcohol consumption in Germany. It prescribes that no alcoholic drinks may be passed on to children and teenagers in public less than 16 years, generally in restaurants, places of purchase or otherwise, and the consumption may not be allowed. This prohibition applies to spirits until 18 years. Beer, sparkling wine and spirit are, not however wine, busy in Germany with special consumption taxes. The substance, a clear, colorless liquid which arises from the fermentation of sugar, is alcohol, or said more exactly ethanol, C2H5O. As raw material, all food containing sugar can in principle be used. Corn, fruits, sugar cane, molasses, maize and potatoes are among others also used for the alcohol extraction next to the grapes as traditional offside response substance, in which the alcoholic content varies strongly depending on a way of the drink. So the alcoholic content lies percent of beer depending on kind, approximately between 4.0 and 8.0 vol, of red wine between 11.5 and 13.0 vol, and of mean white wine between 10.5 and 11.8 vol percent. For example, on the other hand, high-proof drinks like brandy or fruit brandies reach an alcoholic content of 50 and more volume percent. This far more to the power of alcoholic content is scored by one distilling the alcohol gained by the fermentation, and, with this, the alcohol is heated up in special devices. The vapor arising from it is absorbed and liquefies at the cooling again. This process can be repeated until the desired alcohol concentration is reached. The boiling point of the alcohol is 78.3 degrees C. A volume percentage represents 0.8 grams of alcohol. That is, a liter of red wine contains G of alcohol approximately 92-100. Its energy content is approximately with 29.6 kJ of 707 kcal, it per gram of alcohol of Greece, and its consumption forms. Alcohol is consumed in form of alcoholic drinks like beer, wine or spirits on the most different occasions. The effects. The acute effect of the alcohol depends on the taken set and the alcohol concentration of the drink, and on the individual physical and spiritual constitution, the drinking acclimatization and the tolerance development of the particular. So no clear demarcation can alone be drawn between easy, mean and heavy drug states with blood alcohol concentrations. The popularity and far distribution of alcoholic drinks explains to themselves not least by the effect of a moderate alcohol consumption usually felt pleasantly. It seems that way, as a rule, activating an atmosphere increasing in a small set. It can help to work off hindrings and fears and promote the contact and communication readiness. The relaxed, often cheerful atmosphere can, however, change into fretfulness, emotional inaccessibility, as well as in aggression and control that mean or more to the power of dosages quickly. It finally comes to perturbations of the perception and the attention at rising blood alcohol content because of the poisoning caused by it. Power of judgment, coordination ability and language are considerable. Fatigue impairs increasingly and puts finally itself in numbness. At very to the power of alcohol level content, it even can come to the coma up to the fatal output. Wirkungsweise. Alcohol is included in the blood over the mucous membrane of the digestive tract, in which the recording speed is larger than in the stomach and the small intestine. The recording speed is influenced by the consumed food. In addition here, the alcohol is spread over the blood in the complete field up to the body waters of the fabrics. The most to the power of blood alcohol concentration approximately is reached 30-60 minutes after the alcohol recording. 2-5% of the alcohol are eliminated over inhaled air, sweat and urine, while the main reduction is carried out via the liver. Addictedly to different individual factors, the discharge time amounts approximately to 0.1-0.2 alcohol levels with man hourly. The alcohol reaches the blood into the brain, where it influences the information transmission of the nerve cells. It seems impeding, however, at mean and more to the power of dosages by stimulating at a low dosage. Addictedly to the dose, dopamine is released at that one of the neurotransmitters, similar as in the case of other addictive drugs like heroin, nicotine or cocaine. This one the effect of the alcohol rewarding ascribes. At alcohol consumption increased in the long run, certain receptors change with regard to their number and their mode of action. Solid being missing regulations arise from it, are to reduce, for example, the occurring withdrawal symptoms which at an abrupt sedimentation of the substance, and the risks. Acute risks of alcohol consumption result primarily from the impairment of the concentration and reactivity. the perception and the power of judgment. This can already be the fall with small alcohol sets. An increased danger of accident arises, these particularly in the traffic mostly serious, if even fatal follow for consumers and have uninterested can. Furthermore, it frequently comes because of increased alcohol consumption to aggression and force, so that a large part of aggressive criminal offenses is done under the influence of alcohol. Besides these acute risks, these by partly representing precautions alcohol consumption increase primarily regularly can be avoided, for example by the renunciation of driving a car, increases the risk of numerous serious consequential damages. See below. For the reduction of the risk, science recommends the compliance with the limit values for a risk-poor alcohol consumption. Alcohol consumption during the pregnancy can lead to heaviest damages done to the child. On a long-term basis, consequential damages, physical consequences, since the alcohol is spread by the blood over the whole field it comes at consumption increase regularly into practical all fabrics to cell damages, primarily the changes of the liver, fatty liver, hepatitis, hepatic cirrhosis, the pancreas, are part of the numerous organ damages because of an alcohol consumption increased chronically, the heart, extension of the cardiac muscle, as well as the central and peripheral nervous system, brain atrophy, polyneuropathy, and the musculature, muscular atrophy. Furthermore, researches to the long-dated stock exchange securities of alcohol cover that at a long-term heavy alcohol consumption an increased risk of cancer in cysts, mouth, throat, gullet crayfish and with Madame Brust Krebs. An abrupt sedimentation of the alcohol can have dangerous withdrawal symptoms. The consequence, because of the changes of the nervous system, these can lead up to central nervous seizures and to the delirium of Bremen. A disorientation and a consciousness perturbation enter it, which is frequently accompanied by alarming hallucinations. There are strong vegetative withdrawal symptoms like ruse, increased pulse strain and blood pressure, as well as unrest and states of panic. Emotional consequences. In the course of an alcohol abuse lasting longer or an alcohol dependence, it also can come to emotional impairments which can manifest themselves in frequent mood swings, states of panic, depressions up to endangering suicidal. For example, social consequences. An alcohol consumption increased chronically draws frequently also lasting changes of the complete social environment besides the physical and emotional consequences after itself, if it often comes because of, for example, to the social conflicts. If marriages or relations break and or the operating position is lost, the children of alcohol-sick persons are usually concerned by it, particularly the question of the dependence. Alcohol can create an emotional and physical dependence. Its special endangering potential consists that alcohol is practically unrestrictedly available. Its consumption is extremely far common and is regularly carried out in tall sections of the population because of a harmful use or abuse has to be watched in considerable measure, that is a consumerism damaging the health. Alcohol dependence develops over a long time period and generally occurs when an alcohol consumption increased long early and the individual genetic scheduling act in combination. As a rule, it is diagnosed then if at least 3 of the 6 pins of the diagnostic guidelines for the dependence syndrome listed followingly are filled during the last year. 1. A strong wish or compulsion insists to consume alcohol. 2. There is a reduced control ability regarding the beginning, the completion and the set of consumption. 3. The appearance of a physical withdrawal syndrome. 4. A tolerance can be proved. That is, increasingly more to the power of doses are required to cause the effects obtained by lower doses originally. 5. Other pleasures or interests are neglected increasingly in favor of substance consumption. 6. Alcohol consumption is continued despite traceable clear harmful results of a physical, social or emotional type. Alcoholism is regarded as illness since 1968. The treatment of this illness falls in the jurisdiction of the health insurance companies and the pension scheme since 1978. Dangerous gradings. The effect of the substances and with that the physical risk can be made grow extremely at simultaneous taking of alcohol and other drugs. Also at the taking of medicine no alcohol should be consumed since effects are made grow also here or dangerous secondary effects or complications can occur.